They left the spare key under the third flower pot from the left, weighted down with a stone painted to look like a ladybug, something I'd made with Sophie when she was 6. The instructions came printed on premium cardstock in bullet points, like I was hired help they could count on but never quite trust to remember details. Water the ferns Monday and Thursday. Don't overwater, you always overwater. Bins go out Tuesday night. Side gate sticks you have to lift and push. The alarm code is 1987, Marcus's birth year, as if I could forget. Don't answer the door to anyone you don't recognize. We'll send photos from the ship. That's what the note said. Clinical. Efficient. The same tone Marcus used when explaining software updates to me, that patient condescension that made me feel ancient. But it was the conversation the week before that still echoed. Emma's voice carefully modulated, apologetic but firm. The cruise isn't really suitable for your health, Diana. You understand. All those stairs on the ship, the excursions, the humidity. We'd just worry the whole time. You'll be more comfortable at home. Marcus had nodded along, relieved someone else was saying it. Sophie and her younger brother Jamie said nothing, just stared at their phones like the conversation was happening in another dimension. So I'd smiled, said of course, told them to have a wonderful time, waved from the doorstep as they loaded suitcases into their silver SUV, new, expensive, the kind with seats that massage your back. I stood behind the living room curtain and watched them drive away, Emma already on her phone, probably posting about their much-needed family vacation to the 1,400 people who followed her curated life. The house settled into silence, the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums. I walked through rooms that suddenly felt too large and too small simultaneously, made tea, let it go cold, made it again. That evening, while taking their recycling to the bin, because of course I was doing that too, I found it. The booking confirmation, printed twice because their printer had jammed. 7 days, Caribbean cruise, royal suite with premium balcony, 2 adults, 2 children. Departure in 4 days. Return the following Thursday. I smoothed the crumpled paper against the kitchen counter and read every line. The excursions they'd booked, snorkeling, zip-lining, a chocolate plantation tour, the restaurant reservations, the spa appointments for Emma, the teen club for Sophie and Jamie. My name appeared nowhere. Of course it didn't. I stood there for a long time, paper in hand, the kitchen light humming above me. On the fridge, a magnet held a photo from last Christmas, all of us, my arm cropped out of frame. Then I did something I'd never done before. I lied with complete clarity of purpose. I called the cruise line, credit card in hand, the same card I'd given Marcus for emergencies that somehow funded their entire vacation. I need to report fraudulent charges, I said, my voice steady as bedrock. Those Caribbean bookings? I didn't authorize them. Yes, I'll hold. 17 minutes of jazz music later, their $8,247 vacation evaporated into refund pending status. I made chamomile tea. This time my hands didn't shake at all. 3 hours later, the real plan crystallized while I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open to my banking dashboard. I hadn't looked at it properly in months, just checked occasionally to make sure the pension payments were arriving. £18,340 in savings. Another £6,000 in a fixed-term bond maturing next month. No mortgage since Paul died, and the insurance paid it off. No debt. No car payments. Just money I'd been keeping for emergencies that somehow never included my own life. I opened a new tab and typed, Tokyo flights, February. My heart hammered. Tokyo. The city I'd seen in films, in Sophie's anime shows, in travel documentaries I watched while Marcus and Emma took their annual trips to Tuscany, Barcelona, the Maldives. Emma had said once, scrolling through someone's Instagram, Japan's completely wasted on old people. All those stairs, the language barrier, the spicy food. She'd looked at me when she said it, a glance that meant, obviously not for you. Perfect. I clicked through options. Economy felt like punishment, like I was already apologizing. Business class, £3,400. One seat, one way, because I had no idea how long I wanted to stay. My finger hovered over the Book Now button. I thought of Paul. He'd wanted to travel after retirement, had a whole list. Japan was on it. So was Peru, Iceland, Morocco. But then there was the cancer, and the list became irrelevant. And after he died, I became the person who helped everyone else take their trips while I watered plants and minded houses. 23 years of that. I clicked the button. The confirmation email arrived instantly. Your Tokyo adventure begins soon. I laughed. It sounded foreign in the empty kitchen. Day 1, the unravelling. Marcus tried calling at 7:47 a.m., then 8:03, then 8:15. I let every call go to voicemail while I laid my passport on the bed, still valid, the photo from 7 years ago showing a woman who looked beaten down by competence. By noon, there were 18 missed calls. Texts started populating. Marcus, Mum, please call. Something's wrong with the cruise booking. Marcus, the payment got reversed. Did someone hack your card? Emma, Diana, we're at the cruise terminal. They're saying the booking was cancelled. Fraud investigation, did you report something? Marcus, MUM? Call now. I made lunch. Tomato soup from scratch, the way Paul taught me. I ate it slowly, sitting at the table with a cloth napkin, savouring each spoonful. At 2 p.m, my neighbour Beth knocked. I'd called her that morning. The mail key, I said, handing it over. And could you water the ferns? Monday and Thursday. Don't overwater. Beth, 78, sharp as ever, survivor of 3 husbands and innumerable family dramas, looked at me carefully. How long? I don't know yet. She smiled slowly. About bloody time you did something for yourself, Diana. I might have done something impulsive, I admitted. Good. You've earned at least a decade of impulsive. She squeezed my hand. Where? Tokyo. Her eyebrows shot up. Alone? Alone. When? Tomorrow morning. Beth laughed, delighted. Oh, they're going to absolutely lose it. They already are. By evening, the group chat, which I'd muted months ago, had 47 unread messages. I opened it once. Emma, this is ridiculous. We have 4 tickets to a cruise that no longer exists. Marcus, Mum's not answering. Should we drive over? Sophie, maybe she's just busy. Emma, doing what? She's 73. Jamie, this is so annoying. Marcus, I'm calling the police for a welfare check. I typed one reply. Don't. I'm fine. Leaving for Tokyo tomorrow. Enjoy your staycation. Then I turned off my phone. The packing. I'd expected it to be hard to second-guess to repack 3 times. Instead, I moved with eerie certainty. 1 carry-on. That's all. The scarves first. Silk ones Paul had bought me from our honeymoon in Paris, still in tissue paper. I'd kept them for special occasions that never came. Emerald green, crimson red, deep sapphire blue. Good boots. The leather ones Sophie helped me pick out 2 years ago that I'd worn exactly once before, deciding they were too much. The charcoal dress from my 60th birthday. I'd bought it in a moment of defiance. Sleeveless, elegant, with a neckline that showed collarbones I'd forgotten I had. I wore it once to my own party, then hid it because Emma had said, "Bit young for you, isn't it?" With that laugh that wasn't quite a joke. Comfortable walking shoes, jeans, yes, jeans, which I hadn't worn in a decade, simple tops, a cardigan, underwear that matched because that felt important somehow. My jewelry box yielded Paul's wedding ring on a chain, pearl earrings, a watch that still worked. I packed my medications in a clear bag, checking each one. Blood pressure pills, the occasional sleeping tablet, reading glasses. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that made me an invalid. In the bathroom mirror, I looked at myself honestly. 73, silver hair cut in a practical bob, lines around my eyes, my mouth, skin that had loosened but not collapsed, hands spotted with age, a body that worked mostly, despite what everyone assumed. I looked like a woman who'd been useful for a very long time. I wanted to look like a woman who was finally alive. The airport, 5:47 a.m. The taxi arrived in darkness. I locked the door, left the key under the ladybug, and didn't look back. Heathrow at dawn felt like a cathedral to departure, vast glass-ceilinged, echoing with announcements in 6 languages. I'd been here exactly 4 times in my life, twice with Paul, once to pick up Marcus returning from university, once to drop Sophie off for a school trip. Never for myself. Business class check-in was empty. The woman behind the counter looked at my passport, then at me, with that flicker of surprise people couldn't quite hide. Tokyo one way, she confirmed. Yes. Traveling alone? Yes. Any luggage to check? No. She smiled, professionally but with something else underneath. Enjoy your flight, Mrs. Fletcher. Security was surprisingly easy. I'd worried about looking suspicious. A woman my age, traveling alone, one-way ticket. But the officer barely glanced at me, just waved me through. The business lounge felt illicit. Soft chairs, complimentary breakfast, newspapers in 5 languages. I made myself a cappuccino from the machine, selected a croissant, and sat by the window watching planes taxi. My phone, I turned it back on briefly, showed 63 missed calls, 28 voicemails, countless texts. One from Sophie sent at 3 a.m, Gran, what the actual fuck? Sorry for swearing, but also not sorry. I can't believe you cancelled their cruise. Mum is losing it. Dad's been on the phone with the cruise line for 6 hours. Where are you? I replied with a photo. My boarding pass to Tokyo. Then I turned the phone off again. Flight 203 to Tokyo Narita. Business class was nearly empty. Just me, a couple speaking Japanese in hushed tones, and a businessman who fell asleep before takeoff. The seat was wider than my sofa. It reclined into a bed. The flight attendant, a young man with kind eyes, brought me slippers, a menu, asked if I'd like champagne. Yes, I said, surprising myself. He poured it into real glass. First time to Japan? First time anywhere in 30 years. His smile widened. You'll love it. Tokyo's magical. 13 hours. 13 hours suspended between the life I'd lived and whatever came next. I couldn't sleep at first, just watched the tiny plane icon on the screen, creeping across Russia, over endless snow and forests and places I'd never see from ground level. The meal came on actual plates, salmon, vegetables that looked like art, chocolate mousse. I ate everything. Around hour 7, I finally slept. Deep, dreamless sleep interrupted only by the gentle announcement that we'd be landing soon. I woke over the Pacific, clouds below like cotton fields. The sun rising to my left, painting everything gold. That's when it hit me, really hit me. I'd done it. I'd left. Not just the house, not just England. I'd left the version of myself that waited for permission, that made herself small, that apologized for wanting more. The woman who'd raised Marcus, buried Paul, babysat grandchildren, cooked countless meals, and slowly, imperceptibly, faded into background noise. She was 35,000 feet below me now, getting smaller every second. Tokyo Narita Airport, Japanese customs were efficient and terrifyingly orderly. I followed the queue, passport ready, no idea what to expect. The officer looked at my passport, at me, back at the passport. Purpose of visit? Tourism. How long? I don't know yet. He paused, stamped it. Welcome to Japan. That easily, I was through. The airport was immaculate. Gleaming floors, signs in English and Japanese, vending machines selling things I couldn't identify. Everything hummed with quiet efficiency. I bought a SIM card from a machine, following the English instructions carefully. Miracle of miracles, it worked. The train to Tokyo was called the Narita Express, sleek, silent, on time to the second. I found my seat and watched Tokyo approach through windows. Rice fields giving way to suburbs, suburbs thickening into dense urban landscape. Everything orderly, compact, utterly foreign. Shibuya Station was chaos. Thousands of people moving like synchronized swimmers, everyone knowing exactly where to go except me. I stood still, let the crowd flow around me, and looked at my phone's map. The apartment I'd booked was 12 minutes away. I could walk, so I did. The apartment. It was smaller than my bathroom at home. 6 tatami mats, a narrow bed, a kitchen the size of a cupboard, a bathroom where the sink sat on top of the toilet tank to save space. It was perfect. I dropped my bag and immediately went to the balcony, barely wide enough to stand on. Below, a narrow street buzzed with bicycles, delivery scooters, a convenience store with bright lights. In the distance, Shibuya's towers glittered in afternoon sun. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. The air smelled different, salty, metallic, alive. My phone buzzed. Against my better judgment, I checked. A voicemail from Marcus, his voice tight. "Mum, this isn't funny anymore. We were humiliated at the cruise terminal. Do you understand that? The kids are devastated. Emma's parents had to lend us money for a hotel. We know you're upset, but this is cruel. Just call us, please." I deleted it. Then I walked back outside. The crossing. You've seen it in films, probably. The Shibuya crossing. The intersection where thousands of people cross simultaneously when the lights change, flowing through each other in organized chaos. I stood at the edge with tourists filming, locals texting, everyone waiting. The lights changed. I stepped off the curb. 1,000 people moved around me, through me, past me. Businessmen in identical suits, teenagers in elaborate fashion, elderly women with shopping bags. Everyone purposeful, no one looking at me. No one offered help, no one grabbed my elbow, no one called me dear or love or asked if I was lost. I was just another person crossing the street. For the first time in decades, I was invisible in a way that felt like freedom rather than erasure. I crossed 3 times just to feel it again. Day 1 evening. Dinner was terrifying. I found a tiny ramen shop down an alley barely wide enough for one person, red lanterns marking the entrance. Inside, 8 seats at a counter, all occupied, steam rising from bowls. The chef was older than me, maybe 80, hands moving with metronomic precision over boiling pots. He glanced at me, nodded toward an empty seat. I sat. He said something in Japanese, gestured to a menu with photos. I pointed at what the person next to me was eating. He nodded again. 5 minutes later, a bowl appeared. Broth that smelled like heaven. Noodles, soft-boiled egg, mysterious vegetables, thin slices of pork. I picked up chopsticks. I'd practiced at home watching YouTube videos at 2 a.m. They felt clumsy, but I managed. The first taste was a revelation. Rich, salty, complex in ways I couldn't name. The noodles were perfect. The egg was perfect. Everything was perfect. The man next to me, young, tie loosened, briefcase at his feet, slurped loudly. So I did too. When I finished, the chef appeared with tea. No words, just a small cup of green liquid that tasted like grass and peace. I paid 980 yen, about £6. The best meal of my life. Walking back to the apartment, I felt untethered but not lost. I stopped at a convenience store, Family Mart, and walked the aisles slowly, looking at candy I couldn't identify, drinks with characters I couldn't read, triangle sandwiches wrapped in impossible origami. I bought tea and a chocolate thing that might have been a cookie. Back in the apartment, I finally checked my phone properly. 73 missed calls, 42 text messages, 16 voicemails, 1 text from Sophie sent an hour ago. Gran, everyone's freaking out, but honestly, I think this is the most badass thing anyone in our family has ever done. Mum keeps saying you're having an episode, but I think you're just done with their bullshit. Sorry, their nonsense. Tokyo looks amazing. Send pics. I miss you, but also I'm so proud of you. I replied with a photo from the crossing, me mid-stride in my charcoal dress and crimson scarf, face determined, Tokyo blurring around me. 3 flame emojis came back immediately, ICONBEHAVIOR. Then, can I call you? Just for 5 minutes? I promise I won't tell them anything. Tomorrow, I replied. I need 1 night just for myself. Deal. Love you, Gran. Love you too, sweetheart. I turned off the phone. took a shower in the tiny bathroom where the controls were in Japanese and I accidentally triggered classical music from hidden speakers. And I slept better than I had in 23 years. Day 3. The turning point. I'd spent 2 days walking, just walking, through neighborhoods whose names I couldn't pronounce, into shrines tucked between office buildings, down shopping streets where every store was 6 feet wide and 3 stories tall. My feet hurt. My knees complained I didn't care. On day 3, I ended up in Harajuku, searching for a particular coffee shop Sophie had mentioned once. I found it by accident, a narrow space between a vintage clothing store and a crepe stand. Inside, every table was tiny, chairs mismatched, walls covered in photos of customers. I ordered by pointing, got something with too much cream, and an expression of vanilla that felt like childhood. The woman at the next table was reading a mystery novel in French, paperback spine so cracked it was nearly broken. She looked up, saw me watching. "That's the worst coffee in Tokyo," she said in accented English. Australian, I realized. "Still better than the instant I've been drinking for 40 years, I replied. She laughed, a bark of genuine amusement. "Come on, I know a place." Just like that. Her name was Catherine, 71 from Perth, travelling alone after her husband died 2 years prior. She'd been in Tokyo for 3 weeks and had no plans to leave. "My kids think I've lost the plot," she said as we walked through back streets lined with vintage shops. "Travelling alone at my age. What if you fall, Mum? What if you get confused? Like I'm suddenly incompetent because Gra died. Mine cancelled their family cruise rather than invite me, then were shocked when I came to Tokyo," I said. She stopped walking, turned to face me. "You cancelled their cruise?" "Use the credit card I gave them for emergencies." Catherine's face split into a grin. "That's magnificent, absolutely magnificent." The coffee shop she took me to was smaller than the first, run by a woman who made each cup individually, measuring grounds with laboratory precision. It took 15 minutes. It was worth it. "How long are you staying?" Catherine asked. "I don't know." "Neither do I." "Maybe that's the point." She sipped her coffee. "I spent 50 years making plans around everyone else's schedule. Now I don't even book hotels more than 3 days in advance." "Doesn't it make you anxious?" "Terrified," she admitted cheerfully. "But it turns out terror's better than the slow death of being taken for granted." We talked for 3 hours. She told me about teaching secondary school for 30 years, about watching her husband wither from Parkinson's, about her daughter who called weekly asking when she'd come home and settle down. I told her about Paul's cancer, about Marcus and Emma's endless holidays I funded but never joined, about becoming so small I'd nearly disappeared. "We're the same," Catherine said finally. "We loved people who forgot to love us back with the same intensity. We were useful until we needed something. Then we were inconvenient." "That's harsh," I said. "Harsh and true can coexist." When we left, she linked her arm through mine. "Tomorrow, Asakusa. There's a temple I want to see. You're coming." It wasn't a question. Day 7. The call. Marcus found my new number somehow, probably through my phone carrier. It rang while Catherine and I were eating sushi in a restaurant where the chef made each piece in front of you, watching your face for reactions. I stepped outside to answer, Catherine waving me off. "Mum," his voice cracked immediately, "please just tell me you're safe." "I'm in Tokyo." Silence. Long enough that I thought the connection had dropped. "You're... what?" "Tokyo. Japan. I've been here a week. Why didn't you tell us?" The hurt in his voice was real, which surprised me. "Why didn't you invite me on your cruise?" The question came out calm, factual, devastating. More silence, then quieter. "That's different." "How?" "Mum, we didn't think... we just thought you'd be more comfortable." "You thought I'd be more convenient at home," I corrected gently. "Watering your ferns. An emergency contact who never has emergencies of her own. That's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's not." I could hear Emma in the background. "Is she okay? Where is she? Put me on." "Mum, this isn't you," Marcus said, voice rising. Running off to Tokyo, alone, without telling anyone. This isn't like you. You're right, I said. The me you know would never do this. Maybe that's the problem. What does that mean? It means I'm learning who I am when I'm not just someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone's emergency contact. You're scaring us. Good, I said and meant it. Maybe you should have been scared of losing me before I left. Catherine appeared in the doorway, raising an eyebrow. I nodded. Time to go. I need to go, I told Marcus. Give Sophie my love. But I'll call when I'm ready, not before. I hung up before he could respond. Catherine handed me my jacket. Brutal, she said approvingly. Too much? Not enough. You've given them 73 years of enough. Let them sit in not enough for a while. Kyoto, day 14. We took the Shinkansen south, the bullet train that moved so smoothly you couldn't feel the speed until you looked outside and watched the world blur. Catherine wanted to see the bamboo forest in Arashiyama. I wanted to walk through the old city without purpose. Kyoto felt different from Tokyo. Quieter, more deliberate, like the city itself was meditating on its own history. Our ryokan was traditional. Tatami floors, futons, a shared bath we had to book by the hour. The owner was a woman in her 60s who spoke perfect English and looked at us with open curiosity. How long in Kyoto? She asked as we checked in. Until we're finished, Catherine said. The woman smiled. Good answer. That first evening we walked to Gion, the geisha district. Tourists clogged the narrow streets, phones out, hunting for the perfect photo. But if you looked carefully, you could see real life underneath. Locals walking home from work, shopkeepers closing up, an elderly man practicing calligraphy in a window. We found a small restaurant down a side street, the kind you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. Inside, only 6 tables, all occupied by couples who looked like they'd been coming here for decades. The owner, a woman who could have been anywhere from 50 to 80, greeted us in Japanese, saw our confusion, switched to English. Kaiseki? She asked. We nodded, having no idea what we'd agreed to. What followed was a ceremony. 10 courses, each one a tiny work of art, a single piece of fish arranged on a leaf, soup in a lacquered bowl, vegetables cut into shapes I didn't recognize. Everything seasonal, everything precise. Between courses, Catherine leaned back and said, My daughter called yesterday, wants to know when I'm coming home. What did you tell her? That I'd come home when I remembered why I should. She must have loved that. She said I was being childish. Catherine smiled without humor. I told her childish and self-caring aren't the same thing. Then I hung up. Do you feel guilty? She considered this. Sometimes. Then I remember. I raised 3 children alone after Gra's diagnosis. I worked full-time. I cleaned, cooked, budgeted, sacrificed. I paid for their weddings, their house deposits, their emergencies, and when I said I wanted to travel, they told me it wasn't safe for a woman my age alone, that I should wait for them to take me. She looked at me directly. I'm done waiting. Me too, I said. The next course arrived. Tempura so light it seemed to float. Arashiyama Bamboo Grove, day 16. We woke before dawn to beat the crowds. The morning was cold, breath misting, everything soft and blue. The bamboo forest was cathedral-like, towering stalks creating walls of green that swayed in wind we couldn't feel at ground level. Early morning light filtered through in shafts. We walked in silence. The only sound was wind through bamboo, a sound like breathing. At the far end, stone steps led up to a temple built into the hillside. My knees protested, but I ignored them. Catherine climbed slowly beside me, both of us breathing hard, refusing to stop. At the top, a small temple painted vermilion red. No tourists yet, just us and a monk sweeping leaves with meditative precision. We sat on a stone bench looking down at Kyoto, traditional roofs and modern towers refusing to separate, old and new married into something functional. What are you going to do when you go back? Catherine asked. Set terms, I said. I'm done being the placeholder they forget to include. She nodded. My daughter sent me an apology last week. 3 paragraphs about how she should have been more thoughtful about my feelings. Very therapy speak. Very polished. What did you say? That thoughtfulness isn't retroactive. That sorry doesn't uncancel all the invitations I never received. The holidays I spent alone so they could have nuclear family time. The ways they made me feel like an obligation rather than a person. How'd she take it? She said I'd changed, like it was an accusation. Have you? God, I hope so. Catherine pulled out her phone, showed me a text from her son. Mum, we need you to be the same person we remember. This new version is confusing and frankly hurtful. I stared at it. That's perfect clarity, Catherine finished. They don't want me back. They want the version of me that served them. She's dead. I killed her somewhere between Tokyo and here. We sat there until the sun was fully up, tourists beginning to trickle up the stairs. An elderly Japanese couple sat on the opposite bench, holding hands without speaking, comfortable in silence decades deep. I thought of Paul. Wondered what he'd think of all this. Decided he'd be thrilled. Day 21. The letter. It arrived at the ryokan, forwarded by Beth, who'd found it in my mail. Emma's handwriting. Careful, precise, the kind of penmanship she used for important documents. I held it for an hour before opening it. Catherine saw me holding it over breakfast. From them? Emma, you going to read it? Eventually. I carried it with me all day, to the Philosopher's Path, through Nanzenji Temple, along canal banks where cherry trees were weeks from blooming. The letter sat in my bag like a small stone, present but not demanding. That evening, back in our room, futons already laid out, I finally opened it. Dear Diana, I've started this letter 17 times. Nothing feels right. Nothing feels adequate. Marcus won't write because he doesn't know what to say, and I think part of him hopes you'll come back and we can pretend none of this happened. But that's not fair. To you or to us. You were right about all of it. We took you for granted. Worse than that, we made you invisible. You became the person who solved problems and asked for nothing. And when you finally asked, by leaving, we called it cruelty instead of recognizing it as survival. I think about the cruise every day. How easy it was to not include you. How we told ourselves you'd be more comfortable at home, when the truth is, we were more comfortable with you at home. Available but not present. Helpful but not included. Sophie showed me your Instagram. Yes, you have one apparently. She set it up with photos from your trip. The photo of you in Shibuya made me cry. Not because you looked lost, but because you looked found. I've never seen that expression on your face. Joy. Not happiness for others, but joy for yourself. When did we take that from you? Or did you give it away so slowly none of us noticed? I'm not writing to ask you to come home. I'm writing to say, take your time, be whoever you're becoming. And if you decide to come back, know that we want to earn you back properly. Not as the woman who watches our house, but as the person we should have been celebrating all along. With love and long overdue honesty, Emma. P.S. Sophie wants to visit you. Can we send her? She's saved enough from her job. I read it 3 times. Catherine read it once, handed it back. Well, that's something. Is it enough? Is anything ever enough when you're trying to unbury someone you helped bury? I don't know how to respond. Then don't. Not yet. Let them sit with uncertainty the way you've sat with it for decades. That night I did reply. But not to Emma. To Sophie. Sweetheart, yes. Come, I'll send you my location. Bring your sketchbook and comfortable shoes. We're going to Osaka next. Love, Gran. Her response was immediate. Booking flight now. OMG, OMG, OMG. Day 28. Sophie's arrival. Kansai Airport, late afternoon. I stood at arrivals with Catherine, watching for Sophie in the crowd. She appeared like a burst of colour. Dyed purple hair, vintage band t-shirt, massive backpack, face splitting into a grin when she saw me. Gran! She ran over, dropped her bag, hugged me so hard I staggered. "You look amazing," she said, pulling back to examine me. "Like actually amazing. Your hair's different. Are you wearing lipstick?" "This scarf." She fingered the crimson silk. "I've never seen you in red." "You've never seen me in a lot of things." Catherine cleared her throat. "This is the famous Sophie?" "Sophie, this is Catherine, my accomplice." They shook hands, Sophie grinning. "Gran talks about you constantly. The dancing in Cadiz, legendary." "Your grandmother's a much better dancer than she admits," Catherine said. "Come on, let's get food. You look half-starved." We took her to an okonomiyaki restaurant, savoury pancakes cooked on griddles at your table. Sophie watched everything with wide eyes, phone out, documenting constantly but not performatively, just capturing. Mum and Dad send their... Well, I don't know what to call it, Sophie said carefully. Dad cries a lot now, like randomly. He cried watching a commercial yesterday. About me? About a lot of things, I think, but yeah, mostly you. She poked at her food. They didn't realise how much space you were holding until you weren't holding it anymore. Everything sort of collapsed. Mum keeps trying to organise everyone like you did, and it doesn't work. Dinner's burnt. Dad forgot Jamie's parent-teacher meeting. The house is a mess. Good, I said mildly. Sophie snorted. That's what I told them. I said maybe they should learn to function without making Gran their personal assistant. How'd they take that? Mum grounded me. Then ungrounded me when she realised I'm 19 and don't actually live at home anymore. She grinned. I'm moving out properly. Got a flat share in Brighton, art school in September. Copenhagen? Her face softened. You remembered? Of course I remembered. Yeah, Copenhagen's the dream, but Brighton's a start. She looked at me seriously. You inspired me, Gran. Watching you just leave. Do the thing everyone said you couldn't do. I realised I'd been waiting for permission too. From them, from teachers, from everyone. So I stopped waiting. Catherine raised her drink. To women who stop waiting. We clinked glasses, Sophie with soda, Catherine and I with sake. Day 35. Osaka. The three of us fell into an easy rhythm. Morning walks through different neighbourhoods, Sophie sketching in parks while Catherine and I people-watched. Afternoons in museums, temples, markets. Evenings eating everything. Ramen, sushi, yakitori, mysterious convenience store snacks. Sophie was better at languages than both of us combined. She picked up phrases in days, could navigate menus, ask for directions, chat with shop owners. It's because I'm not afraid to sound stupid, she explained. You two are too British, too worried about being proper. She was right. One evening, walking through Dotonbori's neon chaos, Sophie linked arms with both of us. This is the best trip of my life, she said. You're 19, Catherine pointed out. Isn't every trip the best trip? No. The family trips were... She paused, choosing words carefully. Performative. Mum posted everything. Dad planned every second. Jamie complained constantly. I wasn't allowed to just be anywhere. It was all about documentation. And this? I asked. This is real. We're just three women wandering around Japan with no plan. It's perfect. That night, back at our hotel, we'd upgraded to a proper one with Sophie there. I checked my email. One from Marcus, subject line, please read, Mum. Sophie told us she's with you. I'm relieved and jealous and angry and proud all at once. Mostly relieved. Emma showed me her letter. I should have written one too. I didn't know how. I still don't know how to say this, but I'm sorry. Not the quick, performative sorry that comes easy. The deep, uncomfortable sorry that means I have to change. You raised me better than I've been treating you. Dad would be disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in me. Emma and I have been in therapy. Our therapist asked us to list ways we've treated you like a person versus like a resource. The resource list was pages long. The person list was almost empty. That's horrifying to see written down. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. If you'll let me. I love you. I don't say it enough. I've taken you for granted my entire adult life. Love, Marcus. I showed Catherine. Progress, she said. Is it? It's not nothing. He's doing the work, whether it's enough. She shrugged. That's for you to decide. I didn't reply. Not yet. Day 42. Hiroshima. Catherine left from Osaka, promising to meet in Scotland in 3 months. Sophie had another week before her flight. Just us, I said. Just us, she agreed. We took the Shinkansen to Hiroshima. Neither of us spoke much on the train, Sophie sketching, me watching the landscape. The Peace Memorial Museum was devastating. We walked through in silence, Sophie crying quietly, me numb. Afterward, we sat by the river. How do people survive things like that? Sophie asked eventually. By refusing to let it be the only story, I said. By building something new where things were destroyed. She looked at me. Is that what you're doing? Yes. And is it working? I thought about it honestly. I think so. That evening, Sophie asked the question I'd been waiting for. Are you coming home, Gran? Eventually. When? When I remember why I want to. She nodded. Fair. Can I ask something else? Always. Are you happy? Like, actually happy? I looked at her, this girl-woman who'd inherited my instinct to make herself small, who'd watched me disappear and was now watching me return. Yes, I said. For the first time in longer than I can remember, yes. She hugged me. Good. You deserve that. Day 49, the return. Sophie left on a Tuesday morning. I took her to the airport, both of us crying messily at departures. Tell them, I started. What? Tell them I'll come home when I'm ready. Not before. Gran, I know, and I love them, but I need them to understand this isn't a tantrum. This is a resurrection. She hugged me one more time. You're the coolest person I've ever met. I'm 73 and wearing elastic waist pants. Still coolest. After she left, I walked back through Osaka, alone. The city felt different now, familiar in a way I hadn't expected. I spent 3 more weeks in Japan, took the train to Sapporo, saw snow festivals, went south to Fukuoka, ate ramen that redefined what ramen could be, sat in onsens, and let hot mineral water unknot decades of tension. I bought nothing much, some ceramics, a set of hand-dyed napkins, things that felt true. And finally, I booked a flight home. Not because they'd apologized enough, because I was ready. Heathrow, day 78. British air felt heavy after Japan's crispness. Grey skies, grey concrete, the aggressive cheerfulness of arrival announcements. I'd told no one which flight I was on. Wanted this return to be mine alone, but at arrival, Sophie stood holding a sign. Welcome home, you absolute legend. I laughed until I cried, pulling her into a hug. How did you... I'm your granddaughter. I have my ways. She grinned. Also, I hacked your email. Sorry, not sorry. Behind her, hanging back nervously, were Marcus and Emma. They looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown. Marcus stepped forward first. Mum. His voice cracked, eyes red, hands twisting together. Marcus. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry for all of it, for taking you for granted, for making you small, for not seeing... His voice broke completely. I let him cry. Let Emma reach for him, let them hold each other in their mutual understanding that they'd lost something precious and might never fully get it back. Eventually I spoke. I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back to how things were. I know, Marcus said. We don't want that either. We want... He looked at Emma. We want to know you, Emma finished. The real you. Not the version we made you become. That'll take time, I said. We have time, Marcus said quickly. However much you need. I nodded. Okay, we can start there. Sophie loaded my bag into Marcus's car. The drive home was quiet, not uncomfortable, just careful. They didn't come inside. I'd asked them not to. I need a few days alone first, I'd said. to remember what it feels like to be here as myself. They understood, or pretended to. Either way, they left. Home, night 1. The house smelled the same. Lavender, old radiators, that specific mustiness of a place sealed shut too long. I walked through slowly, touching things. The kitchen table where I'd made 10,000 meals. The armchair where I'd read to Marcus and later to Sophie. Paul's photo on the mantel, still smiling that permanent smile. I added a new photo beside it. Me at the Shibuya crossing mid-stride, crimson scarf flying, face determined. A woman I barely recognized, but was slowly becoming. I unpacked methodically. The scarves, all worn now, creased, lived in. The boots with scuffed soles. The charcoal dress that had gotten me through 78 days of choosing myself. That evening, Beth came over with wine and questions. "How was it?" she asked, pouring generously. "Everything," I said, "terrifying and perfect and necessary." "And them?" "We'll see." We drank and talked until late. She told me about the neighborhood drama I'd missed. I told her about Catherine, about Sophie's visit, about temples and trains, and learning how to be alone without being lonely. "You look different," Beth said finally. "I am different." "Good. You were fading before. Now you're—" She searched for words. "Solid. Like you've finally settled into yourself." "That's exactly it," I said. Week 2. Sunday dinner. I'd agreed to dinner. Sunday 5 p.m. at their house. I'd bring dessert. I made lemon tart. Sharp, not too sweet, from a recipe I'd learned from a cafe in Kyoto. Emma answered the door. She didn't smile too quickly, didn't reach for a hug, just stepped aside. "Come in." The house felt different. Cleaner, maybe. Or just less mine. The dining room table was set carefully. Sophie was already there. Jamie too, looking uncomfortable in a button-up shirt. Marcus entered from the kitchen carrying salad. He met my eyes, nodded once. We sat. Dinner was careful. Civil. They asked questions about Japan. Polite ones, like I was a stranger recounting travels. I answered simply, told stories about temples and trains, left out the parts about resurrection. Halfway through, Marcus cleared his throat. I wanted to say something." Everyone stopped eating. "I read your notebook, the ones Sophie showed me." My stomach dropped. "Which notebook?" Sophie looked guilty. "The one with your lists. I showed Dad some of it. I thought he needed to see." "What lists?" Emma asked. Marcus pulled folded papers from his pocket. "My handwriting. Things I've never said out loud. I thought if I gave enough, they'd keep me close. Love bought by sacrifice is always least. I didn't mind getting older. I minded being dismissed. Silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just fear dressed in patience." He read them aloud, voice shaking. The room was utterly silent. "When Sophie showed me these," he continued, "I didn't want to believe them. I wanted to argue that you were being unfair. But I couldn't, because they're true. Every word." Emma was crying quietly. "We made you small," Marcus said, "and you let us because that's what you'd been taught to do. And we took advantage of that. Every time." "Yes," I said simply. "You did." "How do we fix this?" Emma asked. "You can't fix the past," I said. "You can only build something different going forward." "Will you let us try?" Marcus asked. "I'm here," I said. "That's me trying too." Jamie spoke for the first time. "I'm sorry I didn't notice," he said quietly. "You were always just there. I didn't think about what that cost you." "You were a child," I said gently. "It wasn't your job to notice." "I'm not a child anymore," he said. "I should have noticed anyway." Sophie reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Dessert was mostly silent. The lemon tart was tart enough to wake everyone's mouths. As I was leaving, Marcus walked me to the door. "This doesn't fix anything," he said. "Does it?" "No," I agreed, "but it's a start." "Is a start enough?" "We'll see." I drove home alone, hands steady on the wheel, windows down despite the cold. Month 3. Dinners happened monthly. Sometimes comfortable, sometimes awkward, always honest. Emma and I started meeting for coffee separately. Just us, no Marcus, no kids. She asked about Japan, about Catherine, about what it felt like to leave. Liberating, I told her, and terrifying, both at once. Do you hate us? She asked one day. No, but I don't trust you yet. Trust is earned back slowly. She nodded. That's fair. Marcus sent emails weekly. Nothing demanding, just updates. Jamie got into university. Sophie sold 3 paintings. They'd started therapy together as a family. We talk about you a lot, he wrote. About all the ways we failed you. The therapist says we parentified you, made you the emotional adult while we stayed children expecting to be served. That's a horrifying realization. I replied simply, good. Sit with that discomfort. Learn from it. Sophie visited often. We'd get coffee, walk in parks, talk about art and travel and the ways women are taught to shrink. I'm never doing what you did, she said once. Disappearing for people. Good, I said. Learn from my mistakes. They weren't mistakes, she corrected. They were survival. But I have different options now because you changed the pattern. That made me cry. Month 6. Catherine's return. Catherine flew in from Perth for 2 weeks. We'd emailed constantly, but seeing her at Heathrow felt like finding a limb I'd forgotten I'd lost. You look British again, she said critically. Too much beige. I'm home. The beige is mandatory. We rented a cottage in Cornwall for a week. Sophie joined for 3 days, the 3 of us walking coastal paths, eating cream teas, laughing at absolutely nothing. One evening, wine drunk on the patio, Catherine asked, would you do it again? Knowing how hard the return would be? Every time, I said without hesitation. Even if they hadn't apologized? Especially then. I didn't leave for them. I left for me. Sophie was sketching us. 2 old women on plastic chairs, faces soft in sunset light. That's going in my portfolio, she said. It's called Women Who Leave. Month 9. The conversation. Marcus asked to meet for lunch. Just us. We went to a pub, neutral territory, loud enough that silences weren't crushing. I've been thinking, he started, about Dad. I waited. He would have been proud of you for leaving. Yes, I said. He would have. He wouldn't have been proud of me for driving you to it. No, I agreed. He wouldn't. Marcus stared at his beer. I keep wondering when I became someone who treated his mother like hired help. Gradually, I said. That's how these things happen. One small disrespect at a time until suddenly it's normal. Emma and I talk about having you over more, properly including you, but we're afraid you'll say no. I might, I said. Depends on the invitation. What makes a good invitation? One that wants me there, not one that needs me to serve. He nodded slowly. I'm learning the difference. Good. We ate in silence for a while. Are we going to be okay? He asked eventually. I think so, I said. Different but okay. He smiled, sad but real. Different is probably better anyway. 1 year later. I sold the house. Too big, too full of ghosts, too much of the woman I used to be. I bought a flat in Bath. 1 bedroom, huge windows, a kitchen I actually wanted to cook in. Close enough to London for Sophie, far enough from Marcus and Emma to maintain healthy boundaries. They helped me move. Marcus packed boxes, Emma labelled things, Sophie curated what should stay versus go. You're really doing this, Emma said, looking around at the empty living room. I am. It feels final. It's not final, it's forward. The new flat was perfect. Light everywhere. A balcony with enough room for a small table and plants. Views of the river. I hung Paul's photo in the bedroom. Next to it, the photo from Shibuya. The 2 most important versions of myself. The woman who loved deeply and the woman who finally loved herself. 18 months after Tokyo. Catherine and I met in Edinburgh for 2 weeks. We'd planned it months in advance. Scotland in autumn, Sophie joining for a long weekend. We walked the Royal Mile, drank whiskey in pubs older than America, laughed at absolutely everything. Sophie brought her boyfriend, a quiet artist named Dev, who looked at her like she held the universe in her paint-stained hands. One evening, the 4 of us sat in a pub, rain hammering outside, fireplace crackling. "Can I ask something?" Dev said nervously. "Sophie talks about you both constantly. The Gran who went to Japan, the Gran's friend who's even more fearless. You're like folk heroes." Catherine and I exchanged glances. "We're not fearless," I said. "We were just done being afraid." "There's a difference?" he asked. "All the difference," Catherine said. "Fear is natural. Letting it stop you is a choice." Sophie squeezed Dev's hand. "That's why I'm going to Copenhagen, because Gran showed me women our age can still start over." "You're 19, Catherine pointed out. "You're supposed to start over." "But nobody believes it until they see it," Sophie argued. "You two showed me. Now I know it's possible at any age." Later, walking back to our hotel, Catherine linked her arm through mine. "We did something good," she said. "We did something necessary," I corrected. Good was just a side effect. 2 years after Tokyo, Marcus and Emma sent an invitation. Proper cardstock, handwritten. "We'd like to invite you to a family weekend in the Cotswolds. No obligations, no expectations, just spending time together. If you'd rather not, we understand." I called Marcus. "A weekend?" I asked. "Yes. We rented a cottage. Emma's parents are coming. Sophie said she'll come if you do. We just thought..." He paused. "We thought maybe it was time to try being a family differently." "What does that mean?" "It means we actually want you there. Not to cook or clean or organize, just to be there." I considered this. "I'll come," I said, "on one condition. Anything. If I want to leave early, I leave. No guilt trips." Deal. The weekend was surprisingly lovely. We walked through villages, ate pub dinners, sat around the fire talking. Emma's parents asked about Japan. Genuine interest, not polite obligation. Sophie and I walked through sheep fields one afternoon. "They're trying," she said. "I know." "Is it working?" "Sometimes. We're building something new. It's not what we had before, but maybe it's better." "Do you miss the old version? When they just took you for granted?" "God, no," I said immediately. "I miss the simplicity sometimes, but I don't miss disappearing." That evening, before bed, Marcus knocked on my door. "Thank you," he said, "for giving us another chance." "I didn't give you anything," I corrected gently. "You earned it. There's a difference." He nodded. "I'm still earning it." "Yes," I agreed. "You are?" Now, 2.5 years later. I'm 75. I've been to 11 countries in 30 months. Catherine and I are planning Morocco next spring. I video call Sophie in Copenhagen weekly. She's thriving, speaking Danish, selling paintings to galleries. Marcus and Emma visit the flat monthly. They knock now, wait to be invited in. We have dinner, talk honestly, sometimes argue, always with respect. Jamie sent me a card last week. "Thanks for showing me what strength looks like. I keep my passport in my handbag, always ready." Last week, a woman at the airport, maybe 50, travelling alone, nervous, asked me, "Isn't it scary, travelling solo at our age?" I thought about it honestly. "Not nearly as scary as staying." She nodded slowly, and I wondered if she heard what I hadn't said. It's not too late. It's never too late. Just go. The gate agent called my row. Edinburgh to Reykjavik, meeting Catherine for the Northern Lights. I gathered my bag, light, efficient, containing only what I needed. As I walked toward the plane, I didn't look back. I never do anymore. Because looking back means measuring the distance travelled, and I'm more interested in the distance ahead. My crimson scarf is in my bag, my good boots are on my feet. My life, finally, completely, unapologetically, is my own. And if 75 years taught me anything, it's this. You're never too old to leave. You're never too old to choose yourself. You're never too old to stop asking for permission and simply go. So I did. And I'll keep doing it until I can't anymore. And when that day comes, I'll know I spent my final years living, not waiting. That's enough. That's everything.